Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar on accelerating ROI from digital investments. My name is Shomik Ghosh. I'm Senior Assistant Editor at the Economic Times CIO, and I'm your host and moderator for today's webinar. Now, technology is hands down the prime mover when it comes to driving revenue, innovation, and customer engagement. However, realizing tangible ROI from digital investments remains a challenge, with over half of the initiatives experiencing delays in delivering value. Now, in addition to ROI, the Gen Z workforce expects enterprise applications to deliver the same level of intuitiveness, seamlessness, and flexibility offered by consumer apps, be it OTT or social media apps. Now, in today's webinar, we're going to be exploring ways to circumvent some of these challenges. We're going to discuss ways to boost ROI, and of course, learn about how WhatFix approaches the problem and the benefits that they can unlock for the modern enterprise. Now, to do that, let me welcome Abhishek Nagar. He's the lead solutions consulting APAC at WhatFix. Abhishek, thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure hosting you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Abhishek, to start with, you've been observing the enterprise landscape, the IT stack from up close. Now, from your point of view, tell us about how the SaaS landscape in the present day IT environment is evolving. What challenges, what pain points are IT leaders facing at this point?
Yeah, so according to me, in the last decade, what we have seen is with the advent of cloud, there was obviously a migration of the legacy applications to the cloud happening. Apart from that, with SaaS coming in, IT leaders were busy buying in more applications, trying to digitize a lot of their processes. And with all of that, I think the average numbers, right, of the number of applications in use in an organization started to go up. So as an example, 300 is the average number of SaaS applications in use in an enterprise. And if you talk about the total number of IT applications, it stands over 1,000. And gradually, SaaS is sharing the larger share of the pie. And with that, I think the IT leaders are busy figuring out how they can make this transition, this change management easy for their employees. So that is what I think being part of the SaaS space myself for over a decade, I have been a witness to.
All right, Abhishek. Abhishek, it would be great if you could, take us through the current industry landscape and also what Fix brings to the table.
Yeah, sure. So let me start sharing my screen. I have got some slides with me, and hopefully we would be able to go through a lot of these details then. So before we do that, right, to introduce to you, right, we are WhatFix. We are a digital adoption platform, and we would be uncovering what it means. And the topic for today's session is role of DAP in digital transformation, right? So every IT leader tries to bring in the best breed of applications for their employees. But what if those applications are not utilized properly, right? No matter how good those applications in your portfolio are, those applications are good for nothing if it does not serve the purpose. And that is what, how do we leverage the maximum ROI from these applications is what the role DAP plays is we would be seeing in the session today. And I also have got a short video along with a crisp demo on how WhatFix actually works on applications which are typically used in an organization. With that,
Sure.
to introduce myself, this is me. I am part of WhatFix for the last 3 years and been into the SaaS space for over a decade now. Started my journey with Ramco Systems implementing ERPs across the globe, moved to Freshworks, implementing CRMs and ITSMs. But one of the common problem that I saw across Ramco and Freshworks in my 8 years was that the adoption of these kind of enterprise applications is a big challenge that managers, right, have to cripple with. And that is what I have, WhatFix as an idea intrigued me, and I have been part of WhatFix last 3 years solving this part of the puzzle. So with that, let me just start with this, which is all of us here on the call might have used one of these applications, right? So I'm not able to see, but if you know somebody of all of us on the call would have been exposed to one of these applications in our day-to-day work, right? And these are more from the customer point of view. Maybe as a user of Instagram or a user of Uber or Google, I would have interface with these applications. And one of the commonalities that you would try to see in these applications is what I call it as userization or personalization. And what it means is Netflix tries to show you the best web series based on your watching history. Similarly, Google Maps tries to navigate you to your destination based on where you are. And similarly, Instagram keeps an eye on what reels you have been watching for long and accordingly tries to surface the next reel in your feed. So this is how these applications have developed the stickiness with users like us. But let us just try to move the needle to some of these applications, right? Which is what we use prima facie equally like in organizations, which is a email or a Teams or a WebEx for that matter. And when these applications compared to the previous stack of applications, you would not see a very happy face, right? And again, let me just try to double click a bit, and this would help you remind you of your work on these applications added to the portfolio. When I add these, you see the change of emotions happening, right? Whenever a Ariba or a Salesforce or an Oracle coming into the picture, you would not see very happy users in the organizations. And the common, again, cause to this is that we feel that these applications do not understand me as a user like how Instagram or a Netflix understands, right? And with that, I would just like to run a poll with you guys on the call today on how you use these applications and what are the challenges that you are facing in your organizations. So can you pull up the poll, please?
All right, we've got the first poll. What's the biggest challenge your IT team faces in driving digital transformation? We've got four of the most common reasons here, commonly cited reasons. One is resistance to adopting new technologies, training, and support demands, uh, lack of actionable user insights, and of course, change management across departments. Because we know an IT rollout or a deployment is, of course, involving a lot of stakeholders and it requires everyone's buy in. All right, folks, let's chip in with our options here with our poll. And we're going to pull up the poll results in front of you right away in just a bit. And team, as we go along the webinar, I would want to also, pick up a lot of Q&As. So do share them in the box. Okay, so resistance to adopting new technologies takes the lion's share out there, 47%. And the next second largest majority is change management across departments. So Abhishek, we are seeing some kind of pushback, when it comes to adopting change across departments. And also this kind of resistance to new technologies. Is this something you've observed across verticals? Uh, you've observed in your partnerships with other companies?
Yeah, so change is perennial, right? And cloud has made change even more fixed things in our lives. There is a new release coming in every quarter. There are new applications coming my way. Similarly, within the existing applications, there are always new forms and fields, right? If I go to a granular level coming in. So change is something which is always happening in the digital landscape. And yes, adopting to those changes is the problem because digital transformations that we all speak of highly is only as good as the adoption of it. So that is what I think we would gradually try to navigate towards. So let me just move to my next slide, which talks about that, hey, the last decade has seen really two tectonic shifts colliding. So firstly, what I would like to draw your attention to is this particular stat, which is a report from Battery Ventures, which talks about the global spend with software industry, which is being spent on softwares, right, as of today. So it talks about that though the growth rate is 5% CAGR, the overall IT spend currently stands at around 900 billion, and it is seeing no stopping signs. And as we see this, CIOs or IT leaders expect that the organization's productivity and the efficiency of organizations and employees would tend to go up. But there's a very contradicting stat which I would like to draw next, which is if I see this release of or this study, it talks about how my productivity curve has seen a change in the last decade whenever this trickle down of applications started to happen with the advent of SaaS. And if I see this, mostly the productivity curve, right, has remained flat, which means even though I have invested heavily into my digital technologies, the productivity has not gone up. And what it means is what are those investments that I'm making going down to, right? And to figure that out, right, what we also know is that, hey, whenever I try to bring in a change, obviously there are different generations at work with differing digital IQs. And whenever that change is shown to them, there are certain complaints or pushbacks which come to them. And those pushbacks can be segregated into one of these four major categories, which is why do I really refuse or push back to participate in a particular change or digital transformation? Is that, hey, I don't have time. I don't want to do this particular process in this way, and it is time consuming. So ultimately, the thing is, I don't have the time. I can't find the applications. You have pushed so many applications down to me, and I think this is again an study done by Asana that an average employee uses at least 10 applications in his daily flow of work. So finding the applications in that gamut of applications is something which is a complaint by employees. Even though if I find the applications, I'm not sure how to start. And really, I want to push back and resort to my older ways of working, which is either manual or spreadsheet based of working. And lastly, the processes that you want to now make me do in a project management or an ERP or in a core banking application is too complex, and I am giving up. So these are some of the pushbacks which we have heard from the change managers or from digital transformation experts who try to bring in a transformation within an organization. So as I told that the adoption is a challenge which every digital transformation cripples with. And how do we make sure that these applications, right, which I spoke of, which are hardcore enterprise applications, are adopted as elusively as how we have seen a Netflix or WhatsApp being adopted.
Right.
So the thing which comes up is digital adoption, and Whatfix is a pioneer in digital adoption platforms. And what it tries to do is it tries to userize these applications so that the technology itself is seamlessly able to engage with the users and help them execute on those digital processes successfully. So as we have seen that nobody comes and teaches us how to use a WhatsApp or maybe how to go and sign up on Amazon, we usually innately do that. So what if we make these technologies also to be put on an autopilot so that there's no manual and efforts which are involved. There is no need to bring people to the training rooms, or there are never requirements for retraining coming in. How that world would look like. And that is what digital adoption platforms as a category is trying to solve for the problem. So with that, I think we can just run the audience with, again, a very simple poll that we have got. So we know that, okay, adoption is a problem. We all have seen that almost 50% of you on the call today accept that adoption is what is the major deterrent to the digital transformations is. This next question talks about that, hey, how can we improve user adoption?
Okay, folks, we've got the second poll. Let's chip in with our poll options there. We've got faster onboarding and training, enhancing user productivity, reducing error rates and support tickets, and of course, driving engagement with underutilized features. That's a pretty interesting option out there, Abhishek, because we see a lot of organizations. Yeah, they'll invest in a lot of tools and technologies with a lot of cutting edge features, but many times employees are hesitant to adopt those new features or even make use of it.
So is onboarding a challenge, measuring and enhancing productivity a major challenge, or really you have a surge of support tickets? or really you feel that the application has not seen the level of engagement with a lot of those advanced features.
Okay, so faster onboarding and training. 50% of the organization, 50% of our attendees believe faster onboarding and training are the top priorities. And next is, of course, enhancing productivity. Your 2 cents on this, Abhishek, are these the top priorities that's driving organizations towards digital transformation as well?
Yeah, so the analogy is similar to like what we have in physics. The initial thing, right? The moment I try to run, or maybe the moment I try to push a bicycle, there is
Hmm.
friction. And
Right.
that is what happens whenever this change comes in. So if the user acquaintance and onboarding is not good, I think overall the pushback would be a mass pushback. And that is what I think if initially that friction is eliminated and ironed out, the overall adoption can be seamless. And I think I have just tried to put down this complete exercise as a curve, and that is what I would just like to show. And maybe means like we are ever evolving, which means
Mhm.
we are bringing in more solutions. And as IT managers, as part of the IT industry, I think we all know that every application has got a certain lifespan. And when it goes through this life cycle throughout its journey, there are four key phases through which it goes. So initially, right from the planning stages, where as part of procurement, as part of CIOs, like I take decisions to procure the application, and then coming the phases of implementing it, which again is a very crucial stage in the application's journey. And then it goes further once the go live stage is achieved, which is this origin, right, or which is the epicenter of this quadrant. We have got the adoption, right, which means users have now gotten to interface with the application. That is where like we have the adoption stage coming in. And lastly, as the application is being utilized sufficiently, we have got progression, that how we make sure that maximum juice can be extracted out of that application. So this is the journey that an application goes through on the x-axis. On the y-axis, what we try to or do not maybe measure as intensively as it is required is the ROI. So the
Right.
moment I implement a technology, and if you ask me that, hey, you have got these 10 applications, what is the ROI that you are getting from it? So if I just ask for your HCM system, which can be Oracle or a SuccessFactors or a Workday, what is the ROI out of it? Or if I ask you, hey, have you got a ServiceNow or have you got a SAP or Oracle? What is the ROI that you are getting from it? There might not be clear answers because we don't measure it enough. And that is what primarily WhatFix helps you to do, because if you really don't measure it, there are scanty chances that you would be able to improve it. So whenever IT managers start to deploy a new technology, their expectation is something like this, which means the application would start to follow this trajectory, which is orange in color, right? That in 2 to 3 years time, I would achieve stability, and I would have good enough ROI being delivered from that application. But if you really have a look at the reality, and this is something which at Whatfix we have tried to do, working with major GSIs, MBBs, and some of the big fours, is that the reality looks something like this red curve, which means that I start to deploy the application, and after it has gone live, it gives me a mirage image that the productivity is going up, but that is only momentary in nature. After this, there is this valley of death, which means users try to push back and resort to their older ways of working. They don't want these changes or new applications as part of their lives. And this is where organizations make concerted efforts to bring this transformation to the right track. And it somewhere starts to end here after 2 to 3 years. But by that time, there is a delta which is already created, and which is what I call it as the opportunity for impact. So how do we bridge this delta is what digital adoptions as a category is trying to solve. And if we can make sure that the application userizes itself, right, then there is really I can't say that, okay, you can totally cut down training, but really we can move the burden from a lot of those classroom or teams trainings to the applications, because I think the way people Nowadays consume information or consume training has changed drastically. They want things to be instant. They want things to be contextual, and everyone likes things to be experiential in nature. We as humans are wired not to be very academic, but more theoretical and experience savvy. So that is what I think, in my opinion, like if we kind of solve for this, we would close down on this delta, which really would help us follow this orange trajectory. So I hope, Shomik, I answer you that, okay, from the previous thing, that how do really we chart the ROI, and if you measure those ROIs and then really
Mhm.
track it, right, you would know where your application is standing. And this starts to gradually give you certain adoption scores, which means when you start to make use of Whatfix, you would know that, hey, my Salesforce currently is standing at 55. My success factors might be standing at 65. And maybe my SAP, since it is mandatory, is standing at 80. So I need to put more efforts towards my Salesforce adoption because it is at 55, which is quite low compared to my SAP at 80. So measurement,
Right.
first thing where we start with, and gradually like we make those curated and personalized efforts so that we bring the adoption levels to the expected degrees.
Right. This adoption chasm is, quite alarming. It's a drastic dip. So organizations would have to put in a lot of effort to actually bridge that gap between where it should be and where it currently is.
Yeah, that's right. So, obviously, that the dilemma is to put those efforts manually, which means like, do you again want to push the users through those trainings or push them to their LMS systems, threaten them to complete the courses in LMSs, which can be tied to their KPIs, right, or their appraisal cycles verse. So all of those things is one way, or maybe like if, as I told that, what if you try to bring the contextualization within the application itself and provide that instant help and experiential learning to the users within the application so that this problem, right, which is adoption, which is hindering your digital transformation, can be circumvented to a greater extent.
In your experience, Abhishek, does that work better than incentivization?
Sorry, can you come again, please?
Does this approach, the contextualization, does it work better than the incentive approach or the incentivization approach that a lot of companies tend to take? They kind of force feed these new technologies or changes.
Yeah, so that's what I think the point is, that nobody had a trigger on my forehead to use a WhatsApp, right? I naturally started to use it, and gradually, right, if I see me using WhatsApp 10 years ago to what I use it, there have been loads of features which have gotten in,
Correct.
and there has not been a single video that I had to watch for this. It has been a very, very natural journey for me. So there was WhatsApp Pay, there was status coming in, like there were a lot of filters, there was WhatsApp community which came in, and really I never felt that somebody came in and started to teach me. So it all happened naturally. But when it comes to SAP, obviously we know that it is much more complex. It has got lengthy and very rigid processes and steps to be followed. But that is what I think Whatfix is trying to solve here. That what if we just make the flow of information very contextual, so that the users really do not have to worry about seeing those videos or going through the PDFs prepared by my GSIs. What if I can do all of this naturally as a WhatsApp?
All right, all right. On with your presentation. We've got some questions coming in. We've got one from Anish Srimali, and that's on security. And Anish, please table this question for now. It's definitely one of the questions that I want to ask Abhishek. And thanks for sharing the questions. Folks, please, pitch in with those questions as we go along. We'd be more than happy to have them answered for you. Go on, Abhishek.
Okay, perfect. So now how do we do this? So this is something which happens in a three-layered approach. So if you see the solution that Whatfix tries to bring here, first of it and the bedrock of it is analytics. And this is something which is omnipresent throughout my x-axis. So right from the moment when I'm trying to make a decision to migrate my application, or maybe I'm planning to bring in a new category of application into the organization, if I substantiate or if I'm equipped with data, I would be able to make a better decision. And that is what analytics is all about. This is very similar to how Google knows what do you watch, where do you navigate to using maps, what do you search, and accordingly surfaces the next best advertisement. So when you start to put whatfix, it would know the user behavior. So it knows that, hey, Abhishek as a user is sufficiently using ServiceNow, but struggles big time when it comes to using a Workday Finance. Similarly, the next layer is application simulation. So we all know that there are anxieties or fears when we try to make use of a new application or a new technology.
Mhm.
And with Whatfix simulation, I think there is a sandbox created, which is similar to like a flight simulator. I, as a pilot, am not exposed, as a pilot trainee, I'm not exposed to a live flight on my day one. Instead, I have to go through certifications for the initial months on a simulator, and that's where like I'm exposed to my first flight. So similarly, we have got Whatfix Mirror, which exactly does that, which creates a sandbox training environment for the people. And this is something which can start early in the journey. So you don't really need to wait for the go live, but you can start this 3 to 6 months before your go live date. And this does not require reliance on a UAT or maybe procuring licenses for all of your users. You can do it um, with almost free of cost with a solution like Whatfix. And next, once the go live has done, which means I have gotten the credentials for my production environment, I know that onboarding and enablement is the puzzle that intrigues all of us. So how I can solve for the adoption of it. This is the part that again, Whatfix tries to bring to the table. So these three solutions is what we would quickly have a glimpse of today. Um, I have, as I told, I have got a short demo for you guys lined up, which will give you on how Whatfix works on top of enterprise and custom applications. So to introduce to you
Sure.
what Whatfix is, it is a digital app experience layer, which can sit on top of any of your application landscape. So you really need not be worried about that. Hey, I have got desktop applications, I have got web applications, I have got a number of mobile applications, or my applications are legacy. I still use the on-prem mode. I still rely on thick clients, thin clients to deliver experiences to my users. Whatfix can actually cover all of that because it is like a layer at the interface on top of your application. So I just like to draw the analogy of how you put up a screen guard on your smartphones, right? That is how you can actually put up Whatfix on top of any of your applications, and how a screen guard actually protects your screen, right, from damages. Similarly, Whatfix makes sure that your transformation is foolproof, it is airtight, and it is not impacted by anything that comes its way. So that is how Whatfix future proofs and applications throughout its life cycle. And as I told, be it any form factor, be it any deployment model, we have got you covered. So personalization, onboarding, change management are the three key areas that we start with. But gradually, as you progress, we know there is automation which can be brought in because we have tracked a lot of users analytics and we know their ways of maneuvering into applications. And now we can bring automations also for them. So this is what Whatfix is, and I think with that, we would be moving to a quick demo, which I have planned for you guys. And I know the audience on the call is varied, which means you might be taking care of customer applications, you might be taking care of employee-facing applications. And with this demo, I would make an attempt that how Whatfix can agnostically work on any application, be it a CX or a EX, be it a web or a mobile. So hope, Shomik, we are good to maneuver into the demo.
Yes, please. Something that our audience really loves is demo. Uh, to actually give a visual reference is something that really highlights the benefits. So
Okay,
sure, go ahead, Abhishek.
good. So the application that I'm using is a dummy banking application for Whatfix Bank. And this is where I would just assume that I am a corporate internet banker. I have signed up with a new bank. And today, only by post, maybe I have gotten my login credentials and I make my first login. So I would have to figure out a lot of the things, or maybe if there's a customer relationship manager coming my way, he would have to explain that how I have to use this particular portal. But let us just see with the flip of a switch, if WhatFix is deployed with this corporate internet banking platform,
Mhm.
how the trajectory for a user like me would look like. So when WhatFix is deployed, you would have a degree of intelligence built in. So which means WhatFix would know that a user has logged in for the first time, right? This is his first login. So it tries to welcome the user into the application. It tells him that, hey, for WhatFix Bank, we have got a video. You can watch it, or maybe if you want to park it for later, you can do that. And it prompts me that, hey, let's get you started with your journey. And as a
Mhm.
user, since the rest of the application is grayed out, I am prompted to click on this Let's Go button. And the moment I do that, there's an interactive walkthrough which kicks off. And this is all overlay, which means it is just sitting as a skin on top of this application. And it now tells me that, hey, this is your dashboard. If you want to use your dashboard better, you can go through this quick YouTube. In the 1800s. I can play this video within the confines of the application without really going to a support portal. I can quickly get acquainted with how the dashboard is stuck up together. It takes me through the core areas, graying out the rest of the applications. It's a very immersive experience, which I start to get. Currently, the instructions are in English, but if you want, we can translate into more than 20 Indian vernaculars, and overall, we are supporting 100 languages as such. So, as a user, I don't really need to be worried about what my language of preference was, because that can also be read from the underlying application's language preference. And now I just quickly go through this experience, know how the user interface looks like. And once I have covered this, Whatfix tells me that, hey, good, you now know where all the functionalities on your dashboard are. There are certain things which we expect you to complete as part of your task list. So maybe there are certain KYCs or certain document uploads that is expected out of me. What I can do is I can go to this task list, which is again sitting on my application. And it tells me that, hey, if you do these 5 things, I think you would be good and running successfully with your corporate banking portal. So I have already undergone the overview of the application. So maybe what I need to do is I need to create a transfer, or maybe I might have to watch a video. So all of those things, again, without leaving the application, WhatFix is bringing for me. It is surfacing for me within the application. I just go through the theoretical parts with of using interactive the application. Walkthroughs. And once I have gone through the theoretical parts, I can start to execute on the application. So
Understood.
with that, I think the reliance on CSM, right? Otherwise, who would have come to my doorsteps, and like he would have a lot of those new account openers coming his way for throughout the day to visit. We are just putting the burden, those trivial tasks to WhatFix to be completed. And as I told, if you want to put up these overlays substantiated with audio voiceovers, even that can be done. So whenever I'm doing a task, it gives me a feeling as if somebody is standing besides my shoulder and is guiding me into the application. As an example, say the first thing which I want to do is to create a sample transfer. Maybe I just want to add a rupee to my wallet, or transfer 10 rupees to a, a, a child company account. So
Mhm.
see now WhatFix starts to guide me real time into the application, saying that, hey, go to this particular module. And now as the next screen loads up, again, after the underlying screen loads, you know what fix starts to tell me. So I just need to really don't break my head figuring out all the things on the window. These balloon tips keep guiding me till I have reached the end of the process, which means successfully creating a transfer or successfully making a payment. So that's how overall it is helping me do those processes. And now those anxieties have gone away, right? I really don't feel intimidated because I know what I have to do. Otherwise, with these dashboards, with these complex options or interfaces loading, I might have dropped midway. But now I know that how I need to really progress from one screen to another. And when all of this is happening, right, the best part is there is an analytics layer at the backdrop working, which knows clearly that what Abhishek is doing on the screen. And
Mhm.
if I'm committing some mistake, it tries to correct me there and then. So the moment
Right.
I'm getting stuck, I need more information that, hey, what this field is all about, I can hover over a tip and figure out more information. Similarly, if I just make a mistake on entering some information, it tries to correct me that, hey, you should enter numeric info only here on this particular field. So that's how with WhatFix, I think throughout the journey, a more contextualization, right? A more personalized help can be delivered to the users. So this is a quick overview on how initially on a corporate or on a customer facing portal or a supplier portal you can put Whatfix and say there might be instances where I might run into issues. What I would do is I will raise a support ticket, which would again, which can happen through these Whatfix help widgets, right, which are there. So I can go report my issue, maybe substantiate it with screenshots, which will go and create a ServiceNow ticket or which may create a Jira ticket at the backend. And I think, as I told, that it has simplified the journey for this corporate internet banking user. But a core layer which was working in the backdrop was always analytics, which knew where exactly users are struggling, where they are dropping off. So maybe once I have created a ticket, it would create a parallel incident within ServiceNow. And this is where we are transitioning to the employee experience side of things, where say an employee has to work on this ticket and we want to know that, okay, how quickly agents are able to solve for queries which customers have raised or maybe internal employees have raised. So you know that there are forms like these where a lot of us have to go fill up the details, select the right option, select the right codes, and we are supposed to know that, right? We have to be trained to know that what all these fields mean, right? What is impact? What is urgency? I might not know that. But as I told that, what if help is instant? What if really I'm not trained and I am put to this application on my day one of joining an organization? Can it really be not a distant dream, but a reality? So yes, we can make it a reality, but the layer that I am trying to draw your attention to is the analytics layer, because if we don't know those friction areas, we would really not be able to solve the problem at hand. And that is what analytics precisely does for me. So I have put analytics suppose on service now, and as an agent now, as I'm working on the ticket, I have to go to the incident record, select some of the fields like impact and urgency, and finally raise an incident, right? Or maybe solve an incident. But
Right.
as a application owner for ServiceNow, I might really not know that while this journey is happening, where exactly my users are facing the maximum friction. So I might have certain hypothesis that, hey, most likely they are selecting the right impact or they are not selecting the right urgency. I can put all of that with Fotfix and now know that, hey, during this 5 step or this 10 step or 15 step journey, which step is the most problematic to my users. And I see that 200 users actually come and start creating the incident or start to work on an incident assigned to them. Only 10 are able to really solve for it within time, which can be either within their SLAs or maybe how we wanted them to solve that incident. And now, if I just zoom in, I know that this part of my funnel is the problem, which means 83% of my users really struggle in selecting this field, which is titled as service offerings. And not only in terms of number of users, which is 120 to 20, right, which is 100 users dropping off. In terms of time, also, Whatfix tells them that, hey, really the initial few steps, people took a few seconds here. And after this step, also, people don't take much time, but here they are spending 2 minutes. And I
Right.
feel that 2 minutes is really abnormal for them as a user, right? What now I do is I just try to create these cohorts of users who are struggling big time with the process. And now let us just try to see the journey of this user who tries to come to this service offerings field. So we know that this field is not a major problem, but this field is the problem. So as
Mhm.
this agent, right, is working on the fields trying to segregate the incident into different categories, right? He selects the impact, he selects the urgency. The moment he comes to the service offerings field, there's a nudge or a trigger which is surfaced using Whatfix, which tells that, hey, looks like you struggle or you don't select the right field here or the right option here, which leads to a lot of to and fro's between teams. So let me help you select the right option in the first go itself, for which better thing is you should see a snippet of a video, which is not long, which is like a minute of video, which can be surfaced from your learning management systems or from your SharePoint or Google Drives, whatever, wherever it can be hosted. I just stream this video here. I can zoom it if I want. I just see that, okay, what is the right way to select in what circumstance I need to really pull in the right information. And once I do that, I go ahead and submit or solve for my first incident. So this way, Whatfix knows that which user is struggling where, As I told, I might be struggling big time with Workday financials, whereas I might be proficient with Salesforce. So that way, it would only surface this help tips to me whenever I'm on ServiceNow or whenever I'm on Workday financials, because Whatfix knows I struggle big time here. My counterpart, who might be sitting at the next desk to me in office, would not see this very tip. So this
Right.
is the contextualization or personalization that we try to bring to the enterprise applications as such.
Right, makes sense. And I think, it serves as a good learning point for the organization as well. If they see, a large number of users getting stuck in that one particular workflow, then probably they could go back in that backend and then improve the system or make it a little more simple. So I think it serves as a great opportunity for both the company as well as the employees working on this platform.
That's right. And as I told that we are always measuring, right? So what I
Mhm.
can do is I can go back to my analytics and see that has the height of this tower increased or no after a fortnight of making those efforts. So
Right,
now my users are going and selecting the right fields, maybe selecting the right radio buttons. So I would see that, hey, has this time really gone down? And has this tower height witnessed an uptick? So
right.
if it is happening, that means all the efforts that Whatfix is making are put to fruition. It is really bearing the fruits which we desired. So with that, I think let's just move back. I hope the audience was able to follow through. It is simple, though like I'm not sure like it would not have sounded intimidating, but what Whatfix tries to do is first of all understand how you perform transactions on enterprise applications. It can be maybe raising a purchase requisition. It can be going and settling invoices with with my vendors, or it can be going and raising my first request for a job, right? Which is a job requisition which we raise on our HCM portal. So Whatfix knows how much time, how much clicks do I make. And then the moment I'm straying away, it tries to either like put certain tips or certain help items for me to be watched. Or if you want to be more proactive in nature, then it just try to surface certain help articles the moment I just come to that field. And with that, I think we know that now maybe my service now, which was standing at a 55 adoption score, is it really gradually moving to 60 and 65? So this is what Whatfix does. And with that, I think let's move back to the presentation. I would like to run a quick poll with the audience here to know if you have been resonating well with what I have put so far.
All right. So, folks, what support do you rely on to reduce user friction and IT rollouts? Are you looking for in-app guidance and self-help tools, regular training sessions, workshops, continuous communications with end users, or all of the above? Just curious, Abhishek, what kind of, if you could give me a ballpark figure, what kind of benefits have you observed in terms of first contact resolution or, the number of IT tickets have they come down? If you could just give us a percentage for us to get an idea.
Yeah, that's the way I think just a couple of slides away. I have actually put all of those stats into a
Okay.
slide. Yeah, I'll be answering that. Hope that would be okay, or do you just want me to?
No, we're okay. Let's not give them spoilers. We'll have a look at it on the
Okay,
slide.
okay.
All right,
Any
folks, chip in with the option that's most relevant for you here. We've got four options for poll three. All right. Whoa, 89%. So all of these, regular training sessions, workshop, continuous communication with end users. So they require a more or less, a very holistic approach. Is that what Wix can also deliver, Abhishek?
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, I think one of the things which I have seen is whenever new technology goes live, initially there are certain trainings which are done,
Hmm.
but there is always ask put to my SI partner or to my IT teams to do retrainings. So you again have to put those efforts to bring people to the into a conference room, like into a training room, and then train them, right? Or maybe like you have to create more rigorous and holistic videos, host them on a LMS, and then expect the users to go through it. So yes, that is one. And communication is obviously something which is very, very important. And as I spoke of, maybe I might not have emphasized enough on that, but with Whatfix overlays, right? That is what we are just trying to nudge or maybe just trying to convey to the employees on what is the benefit that accrues to them if they try to use the process in that right way. So that is what I think Whatfix does. And I'll just recap all of that which we have seen. So what brings to the table to solve the adoption puzzle is what we have seen in the form of flows, which is those interactive guidances, which tells me how do I need to maneuver onto the application. And with these flows, we have seen that the overall time to process, right, goes down by 30 to 40%. And similarly,
Mhm.
the overall stickiness to use a process, right, on the newer application goes up. So that is what flow solves for a user. Then we saw task list, which is like, hey, these are the 5 things in my role that I'm supposed to do. An application has got multiple roles. So a procurement user would use an SAP in a very different way than a finance user might use it. So task list contextualizes what they need to do within the application. So it's a mini LMS for me, right? I really need not worry about which video should I watch because Whatfix brings relevant stuff for me to be watched within the application itself. Then if I'm getting stuck, I have a dedicated self-help, which again smartly understands on which module, on which screen of the application I have gotten stuck, what kind of error that I have run into on the screen, and accordingly it throws certain FAQs for me. It can be a video FAQ or it can be a PDF that I can read, or maybe smartly it also gives me those flow helps here, which means if I'm getting stuck performing certain transactions, I can take help from the Whatfix flows from where I have gotten stuck. It does not tell me to start from square one. It just starts to guide me from where I am within a particular transaction. And we are talking about technology, and we would not do justice if we don't talk of AI. So yes, Whatfix is working big time on artificial intelligence. We have got our own models tweaked to ERPs, to core banking applications, as well as to customer facing applications. So whenever I just try to phrase a query on the Whatfix help that, hey, how do I do this? Whatfix understands that and it tries to go through all the knowledge bases. But more importantly, it tells me that, hey, this is the response that I have curated going through multiple knowledge bases, right? Which can be on your intranet or Google Drive or a SharePoint. So it summarizes the response for me. So as a user, I really need not break my head to scroll through pages of PDFs and find out the right piece of information for me. So this is Whatfix AI working for you. A very good example of this on Salesforce is, and this is where we are headed towards that really, I just try to phrase a query and throw it to Whatfix that create an opportunity with so and so information on my environment. And Whatfix understands the intent. And now you see that it tries to do the transaction. The user is not doing anything. All the things are being appropriately being keyed using Whatfix. So the form opens up, the user is doing nothing. And now it makes a prompt to the user that please review all the things that have been put up together. If this looks okay, or if you want to modify anything, do that and submit the transaction. So I just need to be very natural in phrasing out my queries. I really need not to learn any syntaxes or hard code it. I can just put any query to Whatfix. It understands me and just populate all the details on the underlying forms. So this is again one of the use cases that we have got on applications being used by employees. Um, we spoke of pop-ups and communication. So yes, again, the moment you know that a user has come in after a long time into a
Mhm.
particular screen and there is a big change which has happened. Only you until and unless you announce it, like the user would know it because we tend to skip through emails or maybe just don't pay attention to the information coming in via notifications on our collaboration platforms. But with Whatfix, it helps you that moment of a need of help by making these announcements within the right module and right screen of the application. And we have already seen this, which is those eye icons or those tips, which are very helpful, which can again be embedded with videos or PDFs and anything, right? Wherever a small field being added or maybe a disposition being populated with an additional response, you can make use of Whatfix beacons, which are these flashy red or blue beacons that you would see. How we get those badges on WhatsApp, which always draw our attention that something new has come up. These beacons draw a user's attention naturally as they are navigated towards it to figure out what new has come up on that particular field or on that particular module. So again, an overlay, but a very powerful capability. And I'll also show that capability over how it works on a smartphone. Similarly, if you keep sending links of surveys to me on emails, I might ignore it. But the moment you just kind of overlay it to me on the right application, the propensity to fill such surveys can go up. And Whatfix natively has got the capability to either integrate to your existing survey frameworks or not make use of Whatfix own survey capabilities to gauge your user sentiments and feedbacks. A very simple example of a contextual nudge, and I think you would have witnessed this if you are a user of an application like Spotify. So as a user, if I get into Spotify, there are always new features which are coming. And what
Correct.
Spotify does is, and this is what I was speaking of, that Whatfix does not really, sorry, WhatsApp does not really push those videos or send us email with respect to the changes, but it just makes things available on the screens itself. So you see here, Spotify makes a nudge to the user that, hey, we have added this favoriting option on your favorite tracks. You can just click on this and create your own playlist. So with that, Spotify saw that this particular favoriting option was not seeing an uptick. But when we just tried to make a subtle nudge like this, that hey, you can now add this to favorites, the overall usage of this small feature went up by 70%. So
Wow.
this way, we are just embedding these experiences within your enterprise applications or within your mobile applications. And I think we have seen this enough, which is we don't make assumptions or hypotheses, but we also validate them with data, which is all the user clicks, all their hovers, everything is something which is tracked using Whatfix. So it tries to understand the user's behavior, like how Google understands your demography much better. Similarly, like with Whatfix, you can start to understand the demography of your users better and then make those intelligent nudges. And this is the slide, I think, Shomik, the question came up that what is the impact that Whatfix brings to different processes? And I think the question here was more with respect to the first ticket resolution. And
Correct.
in that case, this is the broader bucket in which Whatfix is trying to move the needles, which is with respect to employee productivity overall, at least 25% improvement in productivity is what is witnessed. Time
Okay.
proficiency, which is again 2.5 to 3 times compared to the traditional ways of onboarding a new employee, right? Maybe helping the user to watch the videos or bringing them into classroom trainings. It is much more effective because we know the audiences today want instant resolutions. They are not in for those rigorous academic sessions to be watched by them. The other lever which Whatfix uh, influences is in terms of time to launch an application. As I spoke of that, we can create simulations, right? Which is a mirror environment, which is like a UAT without really utilizing the licenses for the application. And the overall time to launch an application can be reduced by 33 to 50%. Overall, the training content creation cost is something which can be brought down by 50% because what with Whatfix, uh, those videos or those PDFs or PPTs which you have to create for your employees can be extracted as a byproduct. And this can be done in multiple languages as well. So if I want that, hey, I have got my agents in different parts of India, I want to give them instructions in Oriya and Assamese and Tamil. With Whatfix, with a click, I can translate all of my content, all of my instructions into these languages. And overall, this can also be extracted in different formats as videos or as PDFs or PPTs. So this leads to a lot of optimization of your content creation as well as maintenance cost. Fifth point is in terms of your support tickets. So as we have seen that as a user, now I really don't need to bother my colleagues or bother my manager or worse, raise a support ticket. I can go to Whatfix. Whatfix smartly understands where I am and it tries to surface certain FAQs. But still, if I'm not able to find the information, I just phrase it to Whatfix. It goes to multiple repositories of knowledge that I might have, which might be siloed, tries to understand the intent and phrase a better response for me, which ultimately helps reducing the support ticket. And the overall knowledge discovery time, which is there's a new change, a new announcement, right? All of that knowledge can be passed to different sets of applications which you have got. So HR applications displaying those specific appraisal start and end dates and the way to do those appraisals, your SFAs or your CRMs working, agents getting the relevant information basis their roles, basis their regions or territories, right? All of that can be done, which leads to a 25% reduction in the overall time to discover information. So hopefully, I think the gentleman who asked the question around the first, I think the resolution time. So this is what I think would be part of your productivity, which is 25 to 37% is the published stats. We keep working with Gartners, we keep working with different research and consulting agencies to validate and publish these numbers. These reports are also which is available on our website in the public domain. So you can go and have a look at the stats on how and which agencies have helped us validate these numbers.
All right. Abhishek, we've got some questions from the audience, and they're very pertinent, very relevant questions that I want to take up at this point in time. Let me quickly chip in before you proceed to the next slide. We've got Nadia Ahmed who's asking a very quick question: will it work on any application, including those that are developed in house?
Yeah, so as I told, you really need not be worried about what technology, architecture, deployment model, cloud that you are using, right? Whatfix can work agnostically on enterprise applications, in-house applications, and any type of digital application that you can imagine.
All right. We've got one on security, but before we get to that, I would want to take Somnath Parisipalli's question first.
Mhm.
Somnath says, I appreciate the analysis part, but my question is, how do you integrate it with the enterprise or legacy applications? How much effort is required? Is it similar to Ansel you perform?
Yeah, so the beauty of Botfix is that it does not require deep integration. As I took the analogy that for putting a screen guard on my smartphone, I really need not take a permission from a Apple or from a Samsung. I can do it very easily. Same thing with Botfix. There's no code access which is required. There is no API access which is ideally required. All of this happens through a browser extension. If it is like an enterprise application, an SAP or a Workday, and through that, like there are those trackers or user actions which we embed at certain places within the screens. And now it starts to track that how many users go and click on that particular button which I wanted to track, or maybe how many users go and select that radio button which I want to track. So this is how the tracking happens. Hopefully, I answered that, Somnath.
Yep, thanks for that answer. I want to take Anish's question as well at this point in time. So Anish is saying, adoption of digital transformation is the need of the hour, but at the same time, risks or threats in the digital age is prevalent in today's digital world. And these are concerning areas where organizations have to invest a lot of time in securing and maintaining the confidentiality of data, both of employees and customers. Uh, Tell us a little bit about the security and the GRC aspects of WhatFix, because we know BFSI is a highly regulated domain. We've got institutions like RBI, SEBI, and IRDAI cracking down on companies who are kind of letting the ball down in terms of security. So that's something that Anish would want to know, and a lot of our users as well. Please go ahead.
Totally agree with you, Anish. BFSI is an industry which is always hard on security. And just quickly, like these are some of the enterprises or industries that we work in. So Whatfix being a very horizontal platform works across industries. But more importantly, right, we have been able to work with these banks in India. We are working with ICICI, Axis, um, Bank of Baroda on the public sector bank side. And recently, I think we also onboarded Bajaj Alliance. So when it comes to security, yes, we have got those necessary certifications which are required to work with enterprises like these. We do go through rigorous InfoSec exercises when we try to work with these kind of organizations. And I think I told you would have seen initially, but in some of these logos, we also have got the Metas, the NASA's. We are also working with American Army, and with each of these enterprises, there is always a very stringent infosec that happens. So I can pass on all the infosec related details, like the kind of certifications that you have got. If you want, you can drop in your email, and we can get back to you with all the necessary details. But yeah, totally agree that the banking industry is gung ho on infosec as such, and Whatfix predominantly is very light, as I told in terms of integrations. It is an overlay technology in the first place. The only access to information that we have is the metadata of the user. We don't really temper or collect the PII of users on a particular application or on a portal. And metadata is also something which only in concurrence with you we would collect that too to personalize the experiences. So if we know that a user is from JNK or if the user is from MP, accordingly we can actually personalize. That's where like we would just need some metadata access or which department the user is from in case talking about enterprises EX applications. So that's the only information which we actually collect.
Right, right. Thanks for that, Abhishek. Abhishek, go ahead, please. Is there more on your presentation?
I think this is it. So, since the audience is BFSI heavy, I just wanted to draw the attention to the use cases that we have solved. So, digital banking, which entails your corporate and retail banking portals. We know customer service and contact centers, which witnesses a lot of attrition, and there is always a need of training, retraining, new compliances and regulations coming in. CRMs for your field agents or for your central teams. This is where again you have a lot of need or challenges with respect to application adoption. And one of the areas specific to the insurance industry is the claims management and underwriting. So Whatfix has got proven use cases with MetLife, with Sentry Insurance, where like we have been able to work across their claims management systems. So the applications can be myriad, but adoption is a very common problem. And industries and specifically functions which witness a lot of attrition, it is a no-brainer to like have an adoption solution in place because this is not Whatfix, but companies like Gartner and Forrester speaking that by 2027-28, at least 70 to 80% of Fortune 500 companies would be using some or the other form of a digital adoption platform.
Right.
So with that, I think we are on top of the hour. I like to thank each one of you on the call for your time. Hopefully, we would be able to impact and bring in a larger delivery of return of investments on your digital applications. Over to you, Shomik, for the conclusion.
All right. Well, just one quick question that I wanted to slip in, Abhishek, before we let you go. Now, a lot of our customers may be using applications like Salesforce, Workday, SAP Success Factors, and these applications get updated very frequently. So, how do you ensure that the Whatfix workflows or other content are not affected by these updates on applications?
Yeah, so that's a good one again. I think how Whatfix fundamentally works is it works at the interface level, and whenever a particular field changes its position, or a drop down changes its position, or a button changes its position, Whatfix
Mhm.
invariably is able to track or is able to latch on the revised position. This is something which is
Okay.
created by Whatfix as a technology called as element detection. And with that in place, really you need not break your heads to calibrate all the Whatfix content with a change, interface change coming in.
Right, right. All right. Thanks for that. I think that's a nifty feature. All right, Abhishek, I think we got all our answers from the questions that we have from the audience, and you answered all my questions as well. So, folks, thank you so much for joining in today. And thank you, Abhishek, once again for joining us on this webinar. You guys have a great evening ahead. Thank you.
Everyone, have a good day ahead. Bye bye.